But this consolidation here is like the market makers are smart right now, and I think the chart's primed and ready for a move. But what's the rush? I think the loud ones on Twitter are rushing it, and then the smart market makers are like, well, we tried the fast thing here on eHEX, and it just got sold back down like
Yep.
to the 004 level, and now that it's look at you get that nice controlled price rise here, and it's doing in a bullish pennant, and I think that the eHEX price looks ripe for like a big move. We might get another one of these, even though it's taken a little longer on Pulse. eHEX seems to be a driver in a lot of these situations. And I discovered a chart the other day. I don't know if I showed it to anyone yet, but you guys will be the first to see. I put the pi cycle bottom chart on the hex chart here. These two indicators. You can see that this signal came in here. It's signaled here by the cross of these two moving averages, and then another one came in here. And I don't know how deep I want to go into it, but moral of the story is Bitcoin only puts in one pi cycle bottom per cycle, but Hex got two. So you actually got a double bear market pi cycle bottom. And this is because of the doubling of the supply and the fork, right? So this cycle, this came in at a price of 007. So like I think this is the level to watch. Anything under that level in terms of buying is generational wealth opportunities.
Yep.
And as soon as we pop up above there, you can go straight to 2 cents. And then that's the start, like the bull market's starting, guys. Like this is an inverse head and shoulders pattern. Left shoulder, head, right shoulder, pop up above that. We can go take out 2 cents pretty quickly on a measured move.
Yeah, and you can see that with that green candle just right there. I mean, like the thin liquidity kind of within that range, just bouncing right up. That does lead me to this, and I think a lot of people have been saying this and asking this because it did already happen once whenever we 2x up off the lows. But do you think that eHEX could look as if anyway, like could it lead the way in this ecosystem again as we do start to pop off again? I mean, just with what you've illustrated there, I mean, with how low we are and how easy it could be to shoot up, do you think we could see eHEX pump before everything once again, like we already did before?
It makes sense to me. The one thing that I look to kind of decide why would that be a good thing would be I use this uniswap.info to like look at the pools and see how much money is sitting overhead of price that needs to be bought up. And it looks like here on ETH, on the Hex ETH pair, there's 90 million Hex in this pool. And so this reads from right to left. So Hex price going up is from right to left. So this is all Hex sitting out here, waiting to be bought. But it's in this side of this range. I don't know. We can't calculate it off the top of my head here, but there's like 50 to 90 million Hex sitting in here, which in this price up here is, let's say 167,000 Hex per ETH, currently at 467,000 Hex per ETH. So what is that, like a 2 to 3x range here?
Three times, yeah.
So that would put you around that 2 cent range. This would give a market maker a chance to absorb a ton of the supply up here, and then push it to the edge of these bands, and then which would then have the market have to readjust and put more liquidity out in front. So what happens was if we got this 3x in price on eHEX, that would give the 2 billion eHEX that's sitting on PulseChain triple the value. And that's important because when you look at the bridge, let's go Pulse is the website. When you look at the bridge, it gives people that's holding onto eHEX over on that side more firepower to buy into this ecosystem. So this $11 million sitting over there could potentially triple in value, which would increase this bridged in value by a ton. And then you could that economic value can virtually be transferred into like PulseX and the others. And then because they're all binded by their liquidity, then you could start to see that all these prices start to rise off the back of Hex getting pumped up on the other side.
Awesome. Looks like a good way to draw it up to me. Yeah, I mean, I go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, while you're talking about that, let's talk about your where does the liquidity lie? You made a nice little pie chart and posted it on Twitter. I don't know, about a week ago, probably. If you have it handy.
Let's see here. Wasn't too long ago.
Yeah, it was on the
Yeah.
28th, I think.
Okay, we're getting there. Where does the PulseChain, where does the value come from on PulseChain? You know what sparked this was I saw Funding Jim talking about how he didn't really understand, or he didn't really see the value in collateralizing your Pulse to create stable coins. Kind of like, I think he worded it somehow, paraphrasing, putting the chairs on the tables to, or something like that. Doesn't create more furniture or something like that. And I had to like kind of rebuttal that a little bit, because what the market needs to understand is that, DAI is just Ethereum and wrapped Bitcoin being collateralized to create DAI. And so what makes that more or less real than the USDL we're creating here? We're able to pad the amount of value backing our network by over collateralizing it. And yeah, so let's just say, for argument's sake, that there's 20, 30, let's just say there's $40 million of stable coins bridged in, just for argument. And if that's real dollar value that backs the network, and that's all that backs it, then that seems like a pretty small network of liquidity, of dollar liquidity backing it. If you think about it from that really narrowed perspective. But in my opinion, it's the wrong way to look at it. What we're doing over here with liquid loans and Power City and these other protocols that allows us to virtually create dollar value here now off the 40 million that's bridged in. Now we're created an additional $27 million. You can see here, or it's 26 million USDL. It's kind of down here. It's really small, but that's how much dollar value we've created by collateralizing Pulse here on this chain. That's just as real to me as this DAI from Ethereum is. That's just
Sure.
the argument here is that, because Ethereum is real crypto, or it's hit like escape velocity or critical mass of public acceptance. That to me isn't an excuse for why USDL doesn't apply as real stable value. And so I just think if you're at the ground floor and you're creating this stuff, yes, there's more volatility and more fun here, because you're at the ground floor, you're creating value here on the chain. And so now, this was on the 28th, and so this data might be a little old now, but USDL is about a quarter of all the value on the chain when you really lay it out like this. And I thought that was just amazing to get that visual.
Yeah, it's pretty cool how we've just kind of, and the first thing that made me wonder too was, well, how do we get, without bridging, how does this network gain more? Does it have to be bridged in? Or will this be able to do it? I mean, because you only have so much Pulse. You can only collateralize so much. You still need that outside force coming in to assist with it. But once you see a lot of the smaller coins popping off, does that really? I don't really know how to ask that.
Well, I agree with you.
You know what I'm saying?
I agree with you that there's only so much Pulse to collateralize. We got almost 1 trillion that's collateralized, and there's only, I think, 11 trillion user supply.
Right.
So let's, for argument's sake, 10% of all the Pulse that we could collateralize has been locked up, can't be sold, and is collateralized now.
Right.
Which is bullish, but what happens if you start to run out of that and you can't tap that anymore? Well, where's the new dollar value going to come from? It could come from something like eHEX rising in value on the ETH chain, and that virtually lends value to any existing eHEX that's bridged into PulseChain.
Okay.
So if eHEX was to go up 10x and none of these other values changed, this is now $100 million of value that you could use to buy up the other assets. Right? So what I'm saying is, let's look at the eHEX versus Pulse chart, for example. So all that happened here was the ratios of eHEX to Pulse changed so dramatically, that you could swap for 3 times as much Pulse up. Well, it's saying here 170%. So 2.7x as much Pulse you could get up here for an eHEX as you could down here. Which, if that money flowed into Pulse during this period, it pumped the Pulse price, right? Because it's yes, you're selling your eHEX into Pulse, but this is lending more value to this network, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so if this thing does a 10x in price, then all that value can flow back into PulseChain, and what you end up getting long term is this stair step pattern of eHEX rising against Pulse, but this is going to drag Pulse up with it.
Right.
Right.
Okay. And I would suspect a couple other projects come over. You know, I think once the Ethereum fees get out of control, we're going to see a couple of them. A couple of these communities come to play, which is also going to bring a lot of value as well. So,
Waiting for the first one. That gets kind of on the topic of like parity. Like I think Crow was getting
Yeah.
close, and
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
what was another one? Ewok, Crow, and yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see something like one of the meme coin communities come over to play the game.
wasn't
Definitely.
it Shiba that just had? Well, there was one guy playing back and forth with 500 billion of them or something like that, bridged out and then bridged back in. And I was looking at that. And I couldn't figure out what the heck they were doing. Maybe just seeing if it worked.
I think they were testing whoever was doing that. So I think what ended up happening there was somebody bridged P SHIB to Ethereum and then bridged the P SHIB back into PulseChain is what I
Right.
think happened there.
Yeah.
And so what they're doing is they were testing the limit, the daily limit of value that can cross the chain. Is it 500? Yeah, I think it's 500 billion of units of a specific ERC20, PRC20 can cross the chain per day. It's just an arbitrary limit that's set in place on the bridge.
Right.
So they might have just been testing that out. Now we saw that with Ecom on PulseChain for just to kind of explain what happened with Ecom. Because this was a similar situation. We might see the SHIB guys or the Pepe, well, the SHIB guys in particular come to mind because of the amount of units of that coin.
Right.
But this here move was a 7,900% move in a day. When you look at it on like the hourly, it just like blows your mind. Turn off log. Yeah, so it just went straight up. And the reason why something like this was possible, like look at all that price action down there. It goes from doing this to then boom. It was like an 80x.
Right. Yeah.
Well, that was possible because there was a bridge limit, so people couldn't. Everyone was asking, "How do I bridge my communist from Ethereum over to PulseChain?" So they could dump it, right?
Right.
Because everyone's just looking for the exits right now. And but so then over time, of course, at that pump stopped, you know, people were able every day that 500 billion ecom would come across the bridge, that 500 billion every single day. Almost like I bet you could find that inside of these candles every day was at 7 p.m. 7 p.m.
Yeah.
went the rollover.
Yeah.
7 p.m. at the, hold on, let me see here. What is that, 1900 hours?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, you could
Yep,
go
there
through
you
here
go.
and every single day it would be roughly around that same time. There's 1700 hours, 17 or 1900 hours. I mean, there every time you can like, it's like clockwork. So, you know, these guys, they're probably just testing to see, you know, well, wouldn't it be an interesting strategy if somebody bridged across a bunch of native Ethereum SHIB and did it for like 60 days or 90 days and had this huge supply, and then they just started to dominate and control and corner that market and start to create parity over here. Wouldn't that be just interesting? Like, there's so many plays that ETH guys are probably don't know about, don't care about, or aren't thinking about.
Right. Well, see, that's the thing. I wonder what that catalyst will be. You know what I mean? Like, who will be somebody's going to figure that out. I mean, somebody in some community, I think, is going to figure that out and do it at some point. I mean, I remember right after PulseChain launched, I don't remember all the details of it now, being 8-7 months ago, but there was some stuff with Pepe early on. I remember like they're being pitched to, you know, a lot of the meme coins early on and Pepe coming over and stuff. But you got to think that somebody on the ETH side is going to realize what the opportunity is at some point with something and bridge over. I guess it's just like, when will that happen? Is, you know, the further we get into the bull market and with what community or what token, you know?
Yeah, man. If I did know, I don't know if I'd want to say it, but I don't know what narrative's gonna spark, right? What's gonna be the thing that flips the switch?
Right.
Yeah.
If you're out there and you know it, you're not telling anybody about it. So
Yeah. How about it?